taken up one after another by the people that were congregated there, until the whole place seemed to be resonant with this singing.
However terrible his death, there was no pity now for the enemy.
Since an airship raid on London has become impossible, the air service is required to make a raid with Gotha bombers as soon as possible.
On June the 13th, 1917, 14 Gothas took off on the first daylight bomber raid on London. Twin-engined aeroplanes, each carrying 1 ton of bombs. Out of science and total war, strategic bombing had been born. Wherever an aircraft could fly was now part of the battlefield. Great cities resounded to the roar of the barrage. Each raid left its tragic human litter. 162 dead and 432 injured in London in June, 54 killed in August. The British public was moved to deep anger. Anger at a new and terrifying ordeal. Anger at the feebleness of London's defenses. The government reorganized the defenses at frantic speed. A public air raid warning system was begun. Whistles and the firing of maroons heralded the coming of the Gothas. Bugles sounded the all clear. In the autumn of 1917, the Gothas flew by night. The terrifying noise of air raids frayed the nerve of a population born and bred in the safe tranquility of the Victorian and Edwardian age. War production began to suffer. General Robertson warned Haig,
continuous air raids on England are causing interruption in munitions work and having some effect on the general public.
At Woolwich Arsenal, production fell to only 1/5 on the day after an air raid. The British and French air forces hit back at German industry. As Allied bombers ranged over the industrial towns of the Rhineland, the German people proved no more steady under bombardment than the British.
Everybody was frightened. We had to go to the cellar, and we had no electric light in our flat. All clothes had to be put on a chair so that one could dress in no time, as quickly as possible, and rush down to the cellar where the whole house met then. Air raids occurred on cloudless nights mainly, and we heard the planes coming, we heard the anti-aircraft guns, and everybody got more and more frightened.
The bombers turned cities into a battlefield strewn with dead or maimed civilians, women, children. There were no non-combatants in a total war. Everyone was drawn in. Everyone was doing their bit. The war was insatiable. The men had marched away in millions and they had died in millions. Now women had to don service uniform.
Today we had a unique war pageant of a most inspiring kind. A procession of 3,000 young women, representative of all the branches of war work in which female labor and ability is employed, each section distinguished by its own separate uniform.
The Women's Army Auxiliary Corps, the WACS, serve as cooks, typists, telephonists, transport drivers, motorcyclists. Some work in the censor's office, decoding messages in every modern language.
The Women's Royal Naval Service, the Wrens, are employed on cleaning torpedoes, signalling, making mine nets, gas masks, depth charges and sails.
The Women's Royal Air Force, known as the RAFs, are drivers and fitters on aircraft and airships.
Women gained an importance as part of the machinery of victory that they had never enjoyed in their own right. total war, rather than Mrs. Pankhurst and her suffragettes, gave women the right to vote. The Representation of the People Act of 1918 went even further. Women could now stand for election to Parliament. Everywhere, the most ancient of privileges and prejudices were swept away by the ruthless insistence of the struggle for victory. The needs of war, so simple in 1914, so demanding by 1918, had been met by the scientist and the engineer. The small of 1914 had become mighty. The few of 1914 had become many. The novelties of early days had become vital weapons of war. Modern war changed continuously. Refinements of invention multiplied. The most significant of war's innovations was achieved by man's most urgent need: to break the deadlock of the Western Front. The glowing hatred of the nations put no bounds to the ingenuity and horror of their inventions. Gas that choked was not good enough. In the summer of 1917, a new gas appeared. It had a faint smell of garlic, some said, or of mustard.
It was an oily liquid which evaporated very slowly. And because it had such a faint smell, the troops tended to take no notice of it. And when they did feel their eyes smarting, they were too late. It was a dreadful substance. If they got it on the soles of their boots, it would go through and burn their feet. If they went with some on their boots into a dugout and slept there, they would gas everyone in the dugout. One man could go in with some on his boots into a hut and gas everyone in the hut.
What total war demanded, the scientists and engineers diligently provided. Paris, 7:20 in the morning, the 23rd of March, 1918. An explosion, and another, at intervals of 15 minutes. Yet no German aircraft was over the capital, and the nearest German lines were 75 miles away. A new fear came to a great city. What had caused these explosions? Rumors, speculations seethed through the streets of Paris. Then the French authorities announced,
"The enemy has fired on Paris with a long-range gun. There are about a dozen dead and about 15 wounded."
A gun with a range of 75 miles. Allied experts believed it beyond the scope of technology, but Germany had made it. She had made 3. Each gun weighed 154 tons. It rested on a 26-ton cradle on a railway wagon of 210 tons. The most colossal gun ever made. When the huge French railway guns began to counter-bombard the Germans, this war of artillery, this war of technology reached its fantastic climax. The city and the trenches shared the same conflict. Man cringed beneath the weight of the horrors he had created to gain him victory. Yet victory belonged to no one, the horrors to everyone.